Salt is a white crystalline form of most often sodium chloride used to season and preserve food. A salt is also a sailor, and there we have our immediate connection to the sea, which is obviously salt water. This is where the common phrase comes from of a man being worth his salt, because he or she is able to generate a charge within the energetic system. The etymology of the word salt is derived from the Latin sal, meaning salt, and is why we have monetary salaries and sales. In the military, people salute each other, or in the public realm give greetings and salutations. In religious terms, mankind is told that they will receive salvation for their sins, which would come from sal aman. Salomon is the Latin word for David, because Saturn is worshipped by the occult elite as the Star of David, the line of kings that Jesus is said to be produced from. David, in biblical terms, was the second king of Israel in succession to Saul, and a lesser-known secondary meaning of the noun David is that of an underdog. The underdog is always expected to lose because of its serious disadvantages. But as many story writers have told it, the underdog always comes in near the end of the game to prove everyone wrong by winning the day. Those who do not understand the astronomical aspects of the allegories will remain stupefied while worshipping fictional characters of their own imagining. Cashier is a noun used to indicate an employee of a bank who receives and pays out money. Today, and for quite some time, there has not been one cashier doing their job, because no actual money is being received or paid out, since fractional reserve notes are not money, but only a promise to pay money sometime in the future. This abstract concept is incredibly difficult for many people to comprehend, but is true nonetheless. Just so it is not overlooked, a cashier is also a person responsible for receiving payments for goods and services, such as in a shop or a restaurant. As a verb that was derived from service on a ship, to cashier someone is to dismiss them from service, and especially to dismiss them in disgrace. This is why to label someone a cashier as a noun only tells half of the story. They need to create the living action of their work, the verb, which is to cashier each customer. And once the transaction is complete, the customer has been cashiered or dismissed from the service that the business provided them, with complete disgrace. To kite something is to increase the amount of a check fraudulently. A kite is also an object flown in the wind that is tied to the end of a string. Usually the object is flag-like, which indicates the fraud known as a false flag. This is the reason that the enormous fraud in government and banking is so closely linked with the numerous false flag operations that occur throughout the world. A flag is also known as a jack, and a jack is also by definition a small worthless amount, and a man who serves as a sailor. To borrow is to burrow, as the etymology shows, again linking us with the burying of the dead, and the suffix word rowing, rowing, gives us our link to the law of the sea. The term borrow came out of the Middle English borwen, from the Old English borgian, which was akin to the Old English bjorgan, meaning to preserve. To preserve something is to conceal it or bury it, and the word bury is linked with the Old English bjorgan, since bury was derived from the Old English bergan that was linked to the Old High German berkan. This is also why in commerce we have bargains or bargain bins. To summarize, to borrow something is to take it from its burrowed place of preservation and use it temporarily. It is therefore lent to someone, which is why there is the religious period in the spring called Lent, which is a period of 40 days from Ash Wednesday to Holy Saturday. It is Ash Wednesday because this is where the ashes of the dead have been earned. The number 40 is extraordinarily significant to the controllers during each Passover, including the significant Passover between the ages, which is why the Keystone XL pipeline is a significant project of theirs right now. XL is simply the Roman numerals for 40, and a keystone is the central building block at the top of an arch, or vault. A vault is a burial chamber or tomb, and these projects both signify the end of the age that has been completed and the burrowing of this world as we now know it. The prefix bur is Norwegian and Swedish for cage, and o is French for water, hence to cage water, which is why our body is made of mostly water that is caged by its iron blood cells. The first two letters of a count, AC, is the abbreviation for alternating current, and the final word is count, giving us the alternating current count, which is electricity that is likened to the ebb and flow of the tides that are brought about by the moon. This is also known as a meter count, and the etymology of the word meter is linked with many other words that are tied with the word moon. The prefix of re means to do it again, and port for a ship's docking station, otherwise known as a harbor, pier, or wharf. To report would mean to dock again. Amortization is in practical terms known as the payment of an obligation in a series of transfers. Esoterically, we are going through a series of spiritual and physical transfers to pay back an endless debt, because an amortization is also the liquidation of a debt. The prefix amor is in Roman mythology the god of love, the counterpart of the Greek eros, as shown by the German word amor, meaning eros, Cupid, and the Turkish amor, for god of love, Cupid. The Latin amor translates as love, Cupid, affair. Many other languages also use the word amor to reflect this definition. Mort is from the French mort, meaning death, and Iza means prostitute in Spanish. Hence, amortization would mean that in death we are prostituted by the god of love to continue a series of transfers for the liquidation of a debt. Savings is a matter of faith. To be saved or to receive salvation is to have savings. Without savings, one is said to be doomed. When people receive a windfall or get money either from their job or from an unexpected source, they all too often pronounce, "Thank God," because they feel that the money has saved them. It has nothing to do with God. This is the occult reason for monetary units that are buried in the banks being called savings, because these monetary faith units are charges that are given to the dead who will be resurrected from this given pledge of power. This is the true basis for the United States currency pronouncing on its notes that, "In God we trust." Balance is where the boat finds its level and its passengers are no longer in danger of being thrown overboard. In accounting, one has to balance their books, while in a store, the cash in and cash out involves a float that needs to be balanced each day, lest the business go underwater. Debtor is a phonetic for dead oar, meaning someone who is no longer able to be an oarsman. A Latin word for criminal, debtor, was columnarius, which also meant someone who is condemned at columna maenea, which in Rome at the time of Cicero was a column used to post the names of debtors by their creditors. More esoterically, the column is indicating the spinal column, which has our signature of debt written upon it. The Latin columnarium translates as pillar tax, tax on house pillars, which was applied to fancy houses with pillars, and since the body is considered a fancy house by those in power, with a pillar called a spine, the governments and rulers of the world feel that they have a right to tax everything that it does. Banks or accountants keep track of their numbers using columnar books, as related to the column, and shown by the Latin columnar, meaning marble quarry, stone quarry. A quarry in basic English definition is a person who is the aim of an attack, fair game, prey, by a hostile person or influence. It is something that is hunted or caught for food. Banks, governments, and corporations do not pick their words and terms carelessly. All of this is by design and done with specific intent and purpose. A draft is the depth of a vessel's keel below the surface of water. It is also known as a current of air, which would be necessary to move a merchant vessel. In banking, a draft is a document that orders the payment of money from one bank to another one. According to nearly any dictionary, credit is belief. It is faith. Also by definition, credit is an accounting entry acknowledging income or capital items, and since all fiat let it be so currency is in actuality credit, accounting entries are all that exist, which is why the books are always balanced. If this were not true, then why are people paying back credit with credit? Belief and faith are the only forms of currency that are recognized in this unsustainable system, and it would be wise to recognize the significance of these statements. A trader is someone who buys and sells because they are interested in short-term profits. Phonetically spoken, a trader is a trader. This is because anyone who is willing to create a duality of destruction and competitive retribution against their fellow species is a traitor, not only to everyone that they seek to manipulate, but is also a self-traitor. Look at the stock market. Everyone involved in this scheme is called a traitor, and for good reason. The capital name that nearly everyone exists under connects everyone to this exchange to be traded as capital stock on the stock market, or the ET mark. Humanity is considered the stock, or animals that are kept for use and profit, which is why we are human resources. We are chained by the bonds of this prison, which is why there are both stocks and bonds. As related to the sea, a stock is the crosspiece that is on an anchor. The other parts of an anchor give more of the sea-related parts of the game away, since a bill is the end of the anchor hook, and a fluke is the part of the anchor that fastens into the ground. Some sails are just flukes, while others are worked for with more difficulty. The crown is also involved, since this is the middle bottom curved portion of the anchor. Nothing has been left out. The logistics of this are taken care of through the parliamentary, congressional, and court systems, because stock is also known as a base for soup. What? Soup? What does that have to do with the court systems or parliamentary and congressional law? Simply because stock is also known as broth, and the Latin word ius translates into English as law, right, soup, gravy, broth, ordinance, decree, canon. That's the gravy train, which is a windfall, or an exploited source of easy money. Use is furthermore where the word justice is derived, and broth gives us the reasoning behind the secret society brotherhoods, that shape and monitor this operation. In law dictionaries, there is a term known as jus abutendi, that is a Roman and civil law decreeing the right of a property owner to make full use of said property, even to the extent of wasting or destroying it. This is the reason that the controllers are so intent on owning everything and declaring it to be under their dominion, to destroy it all at their own whims and discretions. I'll end this segment with arguably the greatest duality of them all, heaven and hell. This is seen in the words hired and fired. To be hired is to actually be hired, or lifted up to a higher state of being or life, while to be fired is to be fired, sent to hell and lowered in status, position, lifestyle, security, comfort, and everything good that heaven is claimed to be.